Well, according to this sign, Timbrell Park bike track is supposed to be reopening in December 2021. Well, it's now the 30th of December and it doesn't seem to have opened yet. Now, I'll link to this video I shot in Perth of a quite similar bike trail, which was set up for kids. So this was shot a week or so ago, just showing that some user acceptance testers were already out having a go. Some kids and some bin chickens. They're about the only people actually having a look at this thing at the moment. Now, the gates were open the other day. I don't know if that was because the workers forgot to close them, or whether the thing had actually opened up, or some kids had just gotten sick of waiting for the mayor to come and open this thing up, and just opened the gates up and went in and had a go. Because I've certainly seen a few people riding around in here, and there's bike tracks in the dirt. Now let's just walk around and have a look for the next couple of minutes. Sorry if it's a little bit boring, but I tried to speed this up and it just looked absolutely terrible. And what I was looking at was exactly what is council doing here. I mean, that's the old thing that's been there for, I don't know, 20 years. And quite interesting how they've put in some jumps and some berms and some lumps and all the rest of it. It's going to look like quite an interesting little pump and jump track when it's finished. Look, I've got no idea about the skills of the people that are designing and building this thing, because what I do know from mountain bike riding is there's a bit of a science and an art form to this work. You've really got to get the angles and the radius and everything of these curves and these jumps and these berms absolutely right, or it just doesn't work properly. Now, I don't have experience in building these things. I can't tell you what does work. All I can do is ride it and tell you what doesn't work. It's not a positive response I can give. It's a negative response. It's that berm is wrong, or that jump is wrong. The takeoff angle's wrong, or the landing zone is wrong, or whatever. And I can't really tell you why. I can just tell you it doesn't work, or it does work. Because there's this concept in mountain biking called flow. And in fact, one of the most popular mountain biking magazines is actually called Flow Magazine, because if you get a trail set up properly, it flows. You never have to brake or anything like that. You just rock and roll down this track from side to side, going around trees and rocks and up berms and, all that kind of thing. It just flows really nicely. And when you're on a track that flows, it's absolutely glorious. It's magnificent. It's something you just want to go out and do every day. If it doesn't flow, it sucks. And like I said, there's the people that build these things, in somewhere like Margaret River, where they've built hundreds of kilometres of trails. And this is only like a couple hundred metres. But in Margaret River, where they've built it through pine forests and national parks and private property and just all over the place, they've got a wealth of experience there now of volunteers who go out on their weekends and build these things. They'll ride out with a shovel and a hoe and an axe and something, and they'll just spend some time working on the track and improving it, or extending it, or maintaining it if it's been washed away or damaged by bushfires or tree falls or rock falls, or idiots out there on motorbikes tearing it up. So from what I've seen, there's a council bloke out here, maybe some contractors as well. I don't know if they're keen mountain bikers or BMX riders, and whether they have a feel for this, whether they do it themselves recreationally, and so they have an understanding of what works or not. Certainly, all I've seen down here is a bunch of utes and trucks. I've never actually seen a bicycle down here. So I don't know how they're actually testing this, because I would have thought that's one of the most critical things, is you hop on a bike and you ride it and you go, does that jump work? Does that berm flow? Does the path flow from this berm to the next berm? All that kind of stuff, and have people of multiple levels of ability tested out. So it might be absolutely fine for someone who's got a high level of skills, but just terrible for someone with a low level of skills, or vice versa. But you need to have some formal method of user acceptance testing before you open it up to make sure the flipping thing actually works. So yes, I can say I didn't break and enter. But look, one of the things I think that's missing here, and it'll be interesting to see whether they finish this off with crushed sandstone, because that was one of the things I really picked up from my experience in both Perth and Margaret River, is that the best trails were surfaced in this crushed sandstone. And in case you're wondering where this is, if you can't figure out where that is, well, there's no hope for you. But it's not it's not the best material for this stuff. It does have its issues. This track today, it's been open for a year or so, and it really needs regrading and well, not resurfacing, but at least grading again to smooth it out, because it was pretty rough, and I actually gave up riding on it after a while and went over onto the bitumen. You get enough rain on it, you get weathering, you have enough people walking and riding over it, it does become a little bit of a chore. But at Barangaroo, they've got this stuff going all the way around the Barangaroo development, and it works quite well for both walking and cycling. And for something like that Timbrell Park bike track, I think this stuff would be absolutely perfect, because weeds won't grow through it, and it delineates where the path is. This is where you should be riding. Just follow the yellow path. Again, here we are in Federal Park, down near the tram sheds. Tram sheds are straight through those trees there, and we have another section of path. And it's a good pet store to go to if you need stuff for your dogs. But let's ride this underneath the viaduct here and see how they've done this. And again, look, there's issues with these paths in that they do need to be raked or graded occasionally. I mean, it's just like having a gravel drive on a farm. Farmers every year have to get a plow, not a plow, but a blade behind their tractor and smooth the path out. You can see water pools on it if you get holes forming and that kind of stuff. So it does need a bit of maintenance, but it works really well as a path. And I think it'd be silly if council didn't put this stuff in down at Timbrell Park. Now let's go to Margaret River, and this is about 5 or 6 years ago, part of the Cape to Cape Epic mountain bike race. And what we're just going to have a look at some of the single track through here, showing what people of a higher experience level would be putting up with, as opposed to what's in Timbrell Park, and just showing that this is what a typical single track mountain bike trail looks like, I guess. With didn't want to go over that over that tree, but I should have and could have. I would have done that these days. I've had more experience. But you can see mountain biking or BMX or whatever doesn't need a particularly wide path. You just need to be able to see the path. And the easiest way to see where the path goes, well, in dense bushland like this, it's pretty obvious, because they've scraped off all the leaves and the twigs and the shrubbery and all the rest of it, and the path is quite well defined. But in an area like Timbrell Park, where it's more open and you don't have all this kind of stuff, finding the path can be sometimes a bit more of an issue, and maintaining it as well. So in that case, laying down the crushed sandstone might be a good idea. But again, thinking about, well, who's going to do the user acceptance testing from a cycling perspective before it opens up? Is council just going to get some people in who are going to make some nice looking berms and jumps and all the rest of it, and then not test it, and then open it, and then just leave it? And it's like, well, there you go. We built you a trail without understanding what actually makes a trail work. To come back to the 5 Dock skate park, for instance, I had a very interesting conversation with a bloke, probably last year, and he said it was one of the best skate parks in Australia. And I asked him why, and he said, well, because they got a concreter in who actually knew how to build these things. There's a real art and science to building skate parks, and again, you can't just get in a concreter who's used to doing swimming pools and footpaths and stuff like that. They might know how to lay concrete well, they might know how to cure it, they might know how to form it and all the rest of it, but getting those curves right and having it flow from one feature to the next is absolutely crucial. And he said that a lot of councils had just brought in a Joe average concreter to build their skate parks, and it was a complete waste of time and money, because it just didn't work. It was just a failure. All the features were just wrong. Whereas 5 Dock, they got it right. They got in someone who knew exactly what they're doing, and they did a really good job, and it's one of the best in the country. So again, that's another lesson, I think, for what should be happening at Timbrell Park. And Another story I was told from years ago is about the Canberra highway design. That, of course, Burley Griffin was an American used to driving on the right-hand side of the road. And apparently when they designed all the freeway entry ramps and exit ramps, they got them the wrong way round because he was used to driving, on the other side of the road. And the thing with a freeway entry ramp and exit ramp, for instance, is the curve kind of either tightens up or opens up depending on whether you're entering a freeway or departing one. And it was all back to front. So they had to go and redo, all these ramps for the highways in Canberra, for just that really simple kind of screw up. So I'll just reiterate this idea of who are the stakeholders who are going to be going down to Timbrell Park when it opens and doing the user acceptance testing. Something exactly like what I'm doing here. Give it a ride, or give it multiple rides, see what it's like, and then come back and say, this works, this doesn't work, we need to do something about this, not quite sure what it is, but we need to adjust this particular thing to get it right.